Hello everyone and welcome back to Totally Broken Opinions. Today's episode is Joker Folie à Deux, a movie that was hotly anticipated, was from a movie that grossed $1 billion over and was widely kind of loved by most people, but not by me.
Yeah, you hated the first one.
I don't hate the first one, I just don't think it's a Joker movie, despite the name. It's just sad man movie. This movie...
Yeah.
The movie we're going to talk about basically confirms that.
I feel like you can't have a Joker film without Batman. And I know like Sony do their villains, but...
And varying successes.
I mean, there's only one that's really successful.
Yeah, but even then, the second one isn't everyone's favorite.
No, it's really hard to do like a character, like a basically supporting character as the main character.
We'll get... Look, okay, so full spoilers ahead. Dan hasn't watched this movie, so Dan's learning about it.
I outright refuse to watch it based on the reviews and how much hate it's got.
And a lot of people have also done that, because it is bombing hard. It is not doing very well, which I've seen a lot of people going, it's unheard of that a movie like sequel that grossed $1 billion failed this spectacularly. But we've had two others recently. We've had Aquaman and Captain Marvel have sequels. Both movies grossed over $1 billion and then have had flop sequels after 5 years between the movies.
I was going to say, it's very common for sequels to not do as well as the first. It's actually more the other way around.
I also think most people were expecting something different from this movie.
Well, unless you were following a lot of pop culture, I imagine most people going into this didn't know it was a musical.
I think people did know. So the musical aspect of this movie is fascinating because it's not a musical, but it is a musical at the same time. And it's bad musical because essentially they take Lady Gaga, who, by all accounts and purposes, is an incredible singer.
Yeah.
Is multi-platinum award winning. She's also a pretty decent actress from what I've heard of her performances in other movies that she's been in, especially like A Star is Born and like House of Gucci, which I think are the two movies that she's has only been in apart from this. And Joaquin Phoenix has done singing before. I think he's done a movie where he's played someone who sings, and like a biopic or something. I can't remember what it was. And so he suited that, I guess. But in this movie, it's talk singing.
Right. Oh, God.
Which is the worst kind of talk singing.
That's Les Mis. It's Les Mis all over again.
Well, because apparently they did a lot of this live, like they did on Les Mis, where they don't have it in the studio recording the songs like to the full effect, and it's just the audio that's in the room.
Yeah,
and you don't get that because not everyone's mic'd up properly. You don't get that sort of thing, and also it's only Joker and Harley Quinn singing, and the musical aspect is just mostly them in like together singing, and it's mostly in his head, so it's not super visually engaging a lot of the time. There's like one scene where it's like a talk show, and like in the first movie, and they're basically singing, and it's a decent song, but it's just kind of them dancing around a bit on a stage. No one else is really doing anything other than kind of being in the background singing. So it's just in terms of a musical. And I was actually kind of interested when this movie was first announced about it being a musical, because like I said, I don't like the first movie. I think that movie isn't a Joker movie at all. It's just a sad man.
Didn't you say it was very similar to Baby Driver?
No, Taxi Driver.
Oh, Taxi Driver, that's the one.
So which is a Martin Scorsese film, which is about 50 years old at this point. But that was Todd Phillips' inspiration, Martin Scorsese. So, and it was meant to be this adult take on like comic book movies and the dark and edgy side. And it's just like, no dark and edgy movie promotes itself as dark and edgy. It's only the ones that are trying to be dark and edgy that aren't dark and edgy that do.
Yeah,
but a lot of people do like... Don't go on.
I was going to say, the hardest thing for me about trying to do a Joker film is if you actually compare it to the comics, there is no backstory for Joker, and that's kind of the point.
Yeah, even the Heath Ledger one changes his story in the movie. Yeah,
it kept changing his story each time, but that's the whole point, is that you're not meant to know. It's a guy that's insane and completely psychotic, irrational. That's the whole... there is no human element.
well, he's insane, but he's also insanely smart because he is a criminal. So I don't care that much about the Joker. I find the Joker interesting, but I don't necessarily love the way society views the Joker as this immortal villain that is so above everything that people love him no matter what. And I was that was my one interesting perspective on the first movie, is that it shows this pathetic man who is being bullied by the society, and it could have had an interesting take of like society basically creates its own villains, but it does it so poorly in that movie. And then this movie, because I think that was what they were trying to do with that movie, but I think a lot of people didn't view it as society creating its own villains. It was, look how cool the Joker is because he killed that guy on TV. And I think this movie is a lot of people, the directors and like Joaquin Phoenix going, oh, people took the wrong message from that. Let's try and backtrack a bit and completely strip away where that character ended up in terms of what audiences perceive it to be and where we actually wanted it to be. Because it's basically, this movie is saying Arthur is just Arthur. He's not the Joker. He was just crazy, and he's basically in the wrong, and he should be locked up, and he should be, like, not on the streets, basically. Yeah. Whereas I think a lot of people went into this going, it's going to be a continuation. It's going to be that guy who finally realized himself as the Joker, now being in prison, and what's his big escape? How is Harley Quinn going to also factor into that? Because I think this movie does the annoying thing of, like the first movie, sprinkling in bits of the comic books, like, we've got the Bat family, or like Bruce Wayne's dad, and we've got like certain little nods to things and all of this. We've got the we are in a society like sort of aspect to it, of like meme culture, which is more Jared Leto's one, but that one is still kind of present in that first movie.
After seeing this incarnation very quickly, do you prefer this one or Jared Leto's Joker?
I still think this one has more to say. Jared Leto's doesn't have anything.
I was going to say, Jared Leto's Joker's so shit.
But I don't. The thing is with this, I never saw Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker. And I think that's the problem with it. Because I think a lot of people have now come to the realization that I have, but they did it in such a bad way of getting to it that people aren't happy with it. Because you've slapped the Joker name on it, and people aren't happy that it's not the Joker. Do you know what the ending of this is?
No, I don't actually know the ending.
Okay, so the ending is basically, after all of the things, he basically goes to trial, he gets... The courtroom explodes, he then escapes, he then gets captured again, and then he's in prison, and then Harley Quinn's broken up with him at this point, and he gets a phone call, and it's like, come to get the thing, and then an inmate stabs him, shanks him multiple times, after he's given up being the Joker, basically, and then the guy basically the guy who killed him, in the background, carves Joker smile into his own face.
Right.
Implying that it's like Heath Ledger's version of the Joker, but not implying that it's Heath Ledger's version. It's more of like, that guy becomes the Joker that's going to terrorize Gotham and Batman.
Yeah.
Not Arthur Fleck. Because this movie is basically trying to... Because I think in interviews before, Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix said that they wanted to explore Arthur Fleck, the character, in a sequel rather than Joker, which this movie does, but it's so boring and doesn't do anything with that premise. Like, it's so otherworldly, the interactions that this man has with people, that you do believe that it's all in his head. But then the reveal isn't that it's in his head, which isn't a bad thing, because that's a tried trope and everything like that. But it's still more interesting than what this movie does.
Yeah.
For like the first few minutes of Harley Quinn and Joker's interactions, you think she's in his head, which would be not original, and also what happens in the first film, where Zazie Beetz' character is in his head, and all of those interactions. But then the essential reveal happens is, she's manipulating you because she's in love with him, or in love with the Joker, and she's trying to get the Joker out, but he's being told that he's two personalities and he's Arthur Fleck and he's not the Joker. And so it could have been an interesting idea of exploring mental health and whatnot, but it's so vapid and like empty and just boring, and it doesn't really cover anything. Like, it's such a weird, pointless movie.
What do you think of Arthur Fleck's actual performance that he plays? I mean, and maybe the story is shit, but like, do you think
I've never liked really Joaquin Phoenix's like joke, like I think it's an incredible like physical performance. Like he does a lot with his like face and his body and everything like that. But ultimately, it's not the Joker to me. It's never been a Joker performance. It's just been a sad, broken man performance. Like, there are moments where he's wearing the makeup and he's having the time of his life and he's doing a weird southern accent and it's bad. And you're like, oh, that just still doesn't feel like the Joker. And I think ultimately it's just a man struggling to fit into a society that he isn't part of or has been abandoned by. And like the outside world has suddenly grabbed onto this because all of them are feeling the same. But he's basically trying to live up to a legacy that he isn't in, which could be interesting, but it's just done so boringly.
Yeah, it's like you say, like there is a good concept in there. Like it's definitely a very interesting thing, and maybe it wouldn't do so well in the box office. And the main reason why they probably hope to do well in the box office is slap the Joker name on it, make it look similar to the Joker, and then don't actually give it the same
there is an
authenticity.
argument that because when the first Joker movie was released, it was during the height of comic book movies.
Yes.
And it was also kind of at the point where people were tired of the same old stuff, because we were wrapping up Avengers, we were wrapping up like the X-Men movies, and it was like a lot of wrapping up, and this movie came out and it was basically a one and done take on the Joker. And then it was, we're not going to do a sequel, we're going to just let this movie sit, and it's going to be an exploration. And people liked it, and I think a lot of people loved it because it was a different approach. And again, I mentioned Taxi Driver and like the King of Comedy, movies that are like 50 to 40 years old at this point. And so a lot of general audiences probably haven't seen those movies. I haven't seen them. I only ever know about them because of the comparisons to those movies. But when you look at what those comparisons are and the plot and all of those things, you do see the similarities. And I don't have an issue with the movie being like a take on that, but it also just doesn't have anything to say other than look at me doing this impersonation. Which again, if you go deeper into it, maybe you could see, it's a guy trying to be someone, and this someone has caught the attention of the public, this Joker persona. I'm going to try and do it, but then it doesn't fit him as a person. And then that disguise or that persona falls off of him, and the society just still kicks him to the dirt as both that character and him. So it could be more interesting, but it's just not, because I just don't think they have they keep trying to shoehorn in the Batman bits. Like Harvey Dent does nothing in this movie, and you wouldn't know it was Harvey Dent other than the fact that the courtroom explodes, and they maybe have like I didn't see this when I watched the movie. I didn't see the pan over to the guy with his face half burnt.
Yeah.
When I didn't see the fucking guy carving the Joker smile into his own face at the end of the movie because I was so bored and checked out, and it zooms in on Joaquin Phoenix dying, so it's in the background. That's just stupid. So if you're gonna do it so that it is the attention of the movie, not the fucking background, because I don't care at that point in the movie.
Yeah, so going back to what I said originally about, I don't think you can have a Joker film without Batman. And that's mainly because Joker isn't... The whole point of a Joker to exist is the Batman, and they kind of are each other. The Joker...
They're the yin and yang of each other.
Yeah, it's kind of like... Even like the Harley Quinn TV show, you can see it. It's a great example of actually how the Joker's kind of portrayed with the Batman, is that they're obsessed with each other. Like, the Joker is a piece of shit and doesn't give a shit about Harley Quinn. He only cares about Batman. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
And if you're doing a Joker solo film, it means you lose that core part of the Joker, that core thing.
You lose his drive.
Yeah, there is no drive.
Which, again, in this... So this is the problem with this movie. Okay, Arthur Fleck and / the Joker, quotation marks, is basically directionless this entire movie. Everyone else is telling him what to do. His lawyer is telling him, you need to be showing that you're not the Joker. You need to be showing that you're Arthur Fleck, and you have two personalities. Harley Quinn, who this interpretation is manipulating him into being the Joker, so a twist on that.
Okay.
relationship, which again, like Lady Gaga isn't bad in this movie. Like no one is like Joaquin Phoenix isn't bad acting in this movie. Lady Gaga isn't bad acting in it. It's what they are being told to act, and the direction and the dialogue and the purpose of the movie is just bad. Like they're not bad in it. It's just bad of everything else, basically. But yeah, like he's basically dragged through this movie, and because he's dragged, he doesn't make a decision until the end, and you don't feel like that decision is earned because he hasn't decided to do that. It's basically him. It comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because the entire movie is basically, your lawyers are telling you to be Arthur Fleck, and he's trying to be Arthur Fleck, and then Harley Quinn comes in, and she loves the Joker, so she's like, no, you're the Joker, you need to be the Joker. And then he becomes the Joker in the court, because he basically fires his lawyer because he loves Harley Quinn. And then he basically goes, I'm whatnot, and then he brings in the little guy from the first movie who he basically killed that other guy in front of and then lets go. And that scene's pretty good, but it's also kind of like, because it's meant to show like the one guy who viewed Arthur as like a decent bloke and didn't bully him and didn't, because that's why Arthur lets him go at the end of that first movie, is because he didn't bully him and he didn't do anything. And then the guy comes in and basically goes, oh yeah, you weren't mean to me, you were nice, you were the only one who didn't make fun of me because of my height. But through the entire sequence of that thing, he's trying to make fun of his last name, which is Puddles.
Yeah.
And also there's a moment when the guy is introduced, it's basically a long shot of him walking down the aisle, like the courtroom to get to the stand, and it basically is trying to make fun of the fact that he's short.
For fuck's
and
sake.
You're like, why? Like, they basically have him walk down. It's really awkward. It's quiet. It's basically him walking down to the thing. It's shot where everyone's just staring and he's being short. Then he gets on the chair and he has to sit on a Yellow Pages book because he's short and he can't see over the thing if he's not sitting on a book. And then it's basically making fun of him until he has his emotional outburst of basically going, oh, you were nice to me. Seeing you become the Joker, or like this guy who just kills blatantly on television, traumatized me. And why? You were troubled, but you weren't this. And then Arthur basically has like, oh no, I shouldn't do I regret this, and I'm stumbling and I can't continue doing this court battle. And it's meant to go, oh yeah, you're meant to see him go, this is where. But then the next scene, because basically he's made fun of the guards during his presentation, like who have been abusing and beating him up a bit. These guards then come and basically sexually assault him in the showers, which is a dumb fucking thing to put in a movie if you're not going to give it the, like, at least attention to make it, like, not because you don't glorify it, but you don't just put it in for shock value, which I think this movie does. Like, The Shawshank Redemption has a sexual assault scene in it, but it is built up and it is traumatic, and it serves that story because it means that character who gets it basically becomes like a different person at that point. They change, and that's their defining moment of when they go and basically decide they want to escape from prison.
Yeah.
And they need to get out. Like, it affects the story. This just basically is implied that them basically assaulting him in the shower makes him docile enough to not want to be the Joker anymore.
That's
because after that,
surely you'd want to be the Joker more.
It's the dumbness of that, but it might not be the intention, but that's how it views to like a general audience. Maybe is that moment because he's basically been in court dressed up as the Joker, and then after that, he basically has a moment in the courtroom where he goes, "There is no Joker. I am Arthur Fleck," and then it explodes, and Harley Quinn's left and whatnot. Oh, Harley Quinn's also potentially pregnant in this movie after one sex scene. Yeah, it's weird. Harley Quinn in this movie could have been very interesting because so here's what I thought when I first went into this movie. One, I knew he was probably gonna die.
Yeah.
I never didn't believe that Arthur Fleck would not die or / the Joker would not die in this movie. The only reason I doubted it for like a second was because I was like, they're going to try and do the happy ending. But this story has never, like, you're never meant to like the Joker's actions. You're meant to like the Joker as a villain.
Yeah.
That's the thing people, I think, sometimes get wrong is you can have bad characters and you can like a good villain, but you can never like their actions.
Homeland is a good example.
Yeah. And even like Darth Vader and all of these things, you can have a redemption, but it has to be earned from, like, you can never really forgive like the mass murder. Like I find like the end of Star Wars, like the original trilogy where like Darth Vader basically saves Luke and you're like, oh yeah, you're accepted as a Jedi again and you can be a Force ghost. It's like, yeah, okay, he saved one dude. He saved his son, but he killed a bunch of kids. And that's like the joke. Everyone is aware of that and everyone's like, okay, but it's because it's a good villain, you're like, okay, I can try and redeem it in some sort of way. The Joker is another example. Like, everyone loves Heath Ledger's Joker because he's a good villain.
Yeah, and he plays it well into like the the psychoticness and like the Batman and So I need to watch the film again.
Yeah, and then because of that, people view him as like like this movie. I think the biggest mistake was trying to make the Joker sympathetic. The first movie, I think, because basically what the first movie does is it shows you all the reasons why Joker / Arthur Fleck is justified in doing that one thing that he does, which is kill the guy on television. Because that's meant to be the twist. That is meant to be the moment where you go, oh, that's where he turns into the Joker and it's bad. But you kind of go, the whole movie has made me sympathetic to this guy.
Yeah,
I think you're meant.
The whole point of the Joker is you're meant to hate him. You're meant to despise his action. You're meant to think he's crazy and like he's wrong for everything he does.
You're never meant to justify his action. And I think what they tried to do with the first movie was show him as sympathetic, but he's also meant to be crazy, so he's not justified in his things. But because they shit on him so much, humans can't not go, aww. Look at that poor sad man. And then that's the problem with the shooting at the end, where he's on television and you've built up this guy as a sad, sympathetic person. Even though murder is wrong, you still go, he kind of is justified in doing it. The whole actions around it and why he did it and the actual killing, you should never kill people. Like, that's just basic human decency. But, like, it's that build-up of if he was shown to not be sympathetic or, like, not remorseful on it, and I haven't watched that movie in ages, so I might have misremembered him being, like, not sympathetic. But then this movie definitely makes him feel sympathetic about his actions in the first one, so it makes that even more clear that he did feel remorse.
Yeah,
like,
and it's also, you can't have so this Joker, correct me if I'm wrong, but he doesn't kill anyone in real life. In this film,
no, he only kills.
How can you have a Joker film that he doesn't kill anyone?
Well,
it makes no sense logically.
No, he gets someone killed by his actions, I guess. Because so there's this one guy who basically the prison guards. There's an inmate within Joker's like prison. And the guards basically make this kid, not a kid, but like a teen, like a 20-something, maybe like youngish man, basically go up to Joaquin Phoenix and say, "Hey, yo, I heard you're a good kisser. Would you want to kiss me?" And then Joaquin Phoenix Joker does kiss him, and then he goes, "Oh, that was nice and whatnot," and then he starts sucking up to, and the guards are just making fun of him and laughing in the background, and you're like, okay, gay jokes, good. The homophobic prison guards and whatnot, and all of that. Like the guards are the big villains, and I saw a take on this. I can't remember who did it, but the prison guards are shown to be way worse, like the worst people. And in the first movie, everyone who's like bad to Joker kind of gets their comeuppance. But in this movie, the people who are the worst to Joker don't get any comeuppance because nothing. Like I think like when the guards are bullying him and just like pushing him down and making him like feel like shit, like you're expecting as an audience member to go, he's gonna get revenge on those guys. He's gonna end up killing, even though you don't want him to do that because he's like it's bad for people to kill, obviously, but you feel a sense of justice from him getting his vengeance on these people. But the prison guards don't get anything at the end of this movie. They basically assault him and then he dies. And nothing comes out of it. So
that's a bit shit.
Which could have been interesting as a take on societal, like, people get away with stuff all the time. Like, it could have been, but I don't think that was the intention. I think they just wanted to do the thing, and then they didn't do any resolution because they couldn't, because Joker didn't turn into the Joker.
Have you been watching the Penguin TV show?
No, I need to.
Yeah, me too.
But I'm waiting for all of it to be out.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll do an episode on it later on. But that's doing really well at the moment.
We do.
So it's just kind of the point is people aren't tired of these kind of like genres and tropes.
Well, no, everyone. The thing is, everyone loves a villain.
Yeah.
Because a villain is a good antagonist to the hero. It's why the hero/villain story exists. Because without the other, unless the character can stand on their own, a lot of the time a villain is useless without their hero. Like, there are examples where you can have, like, a standalone thing, but then you have to also make a worse villain to be the counter. Like, you look at Venom, and it's like the first Venom is fun, but it's like, the bad guy is a blob.
Yeah.
The second movie, the bad guy is a more evil blob.
To be fair, I actually like the second one. I just wish it was less rushed.
One.
It was just kind of rushed, the second one. But...
Yeah, I feel like the second movie, I enjoyed the second movie. I think our review is pretty positive on that movie. And I know a lot of people don't like it, but I did enjoy that second movie. But I think that's mainly because I like Tom Hardy. And I think Tom Hardy just does a really good job in that role. And the third one is, again, angry blobs. Yeah,
I guess when you have a bad film, it can be carried by good something.
Performance.
A good performance, a good music, good anything. It could be an overall bad film, but you've got something, good visuals. So,
yeah.
But if it hasn't got anything, then it's just going to be a flop.
This movie is
this is the worst film rated. It's got worst superhero film.
Okay, so the thing that I think a lot of people saw was that Cinema Score gave this movie a D, which is the lowest a superhero movie has ever gotten on that website.
Like, this film's doing worse than Modern Web, and that says something.
I think it's it definitely didn't do very... So I think it made like 40 million box office opening.
I mean, in terms of reviews, it's doing worse.
Oh yeah, but I think in terms of like general audiences paying to go see this movie, it's doing bad, and I think it's comparable to Morbius's open, which is bad when you look at it.
Yeah.
But I think it's doing worse than the Marvels and Aquaman and the Flash, which all opened pretty like maybe 60 to 70 million, like not what they were expected. But this was expected to be like 120 million opening because of the first one, and then it went down, and then even the review, like the basis of where they thought it was going to be, was way lower. So, but again, a lot of like movie like predicting of like payments is based on like pre-sale tickets and like just guessing. This first one did well. Yeah, it's going to make $150 million opening weekend. Like, you never know. Audiences' perception changes. Time moves on. Economies go up. Like, there's a lot of factors as to why this movie probably... Like, you didn't see it because it was expensive.
No,
and you heard it was bad. Like,
I had no reason to go watch this film. Everyone said it's bad, and it was 20 quid, and I was like, I'm not paying 20 quid to watch a shit film.
I'm locked into the superhero thing. I'm locked into being a movie liker. So I will go watch movies if I want to see what they're about. I didn't see Megalopolis because I just ran out of time, and I heard that movie was bad. But I did really want to watch it. And it was just in an inconvenient situation for me in terms of getting to a cinema that was hosting it, because it was limited in terms of which cinemas I could go and watch it at. So I will watch that movie eventually. But I wanted to talk about the concept of comedy.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why, but this movie, for some odd reason, sparked my brain to go for an entire week, basically up to this point from watching it, going, what makes comedy funny? And I've basically boiled it down to, which I'm sure a lot of comedians and a lot of people who know comedy are going to go, this is basic shit. Why are you talking about this like it's something new? But I maintain that if you don't think about this stuff and it is not your like life, you will not know a lot of things. And I think with comedy, the reason why like 9/11 jokes and currently we're having the hurricane situation and people are taking the piss out of it and making memes and stuff like that is because comedy at its base level is something for humans to connect over, and when it is something that everyone knows, that is easier to explain and get across quickly than something that is obscure. So you have like an inside joke with your friends, someone on the outside doesn't understand what the fuck that is, but you can all laugh at like a 9/11 joke because it's a national tragedy and everyone knows what that is, even though you shouldn't.
I'd go as far as say it's also like a coping mechanism a lot of the time. So people will say shit things, people know it's shit, but it goes by delivery that they're laughing about it in a way, and it's to make people feel good in a bad situation.
But it's also a good, because I find that it's a way to get, like, people know like a dad joke.
Yeah, but no one laughs that hard at a dad joke. I mean, some people find it like,
yeah, but the point of a dad joke is a common ground. Because everyone knows, like, a dumb pun. Like, a pun, it's why, like, when you tell a pun to someone who's from a different country, it doesn't land as well as it does from someone from your own country. Because there's a translation error where they've learned the language meticulously, but they don't get the humor in the pun. Because they've learned it as a basic thing and, like, a knock-knock joke or something like that. Which is why, like, silent comedy translates so well globally. Because everyone knows funny falling over, or everyone knows a fart's funny. It's that sort of, everyone knows it. And I think when you go super specific with comedy, unless you're like that's, I think what's happening in a lot of the world is a lot of people are going super specific.
Yeah.
And that's what's dividing people, because everyone's got like TikTok. Everyone has like a thing that they find on TikTok funny, but it's a hyper-specific, personalized thing to you. But then when you try and put it to someone else outside of that bubble, it is isolating because you cannot connect, because it's so many layers deep in your own personal thing that you don't know what the fuck.
It's also, if you find something online you find very hilarious, and then you show it to someone else, and then they just don't find it as funny. It's because
you're like, why?
Yeah, you're like, why? It's so funny, but it's because it's you. You find it funny.
Yeah, you find it funny. But it's also like an isolating thing when someone doesn't enjoy what you enjoy.
Yeah, you feel alone.
Yeah, you feel like, that's what I find about this movie that you could have done. Like, comedy is meant to bring people together, and you could have done something where, because he's like trying to be in it, like the first movie I thought was going to be him trying to be an aspiring comedian, him telling jokes to try and connect with people, but because like he doesn't understand the fundamentals of comedy. Like, have you ever told a joke where you know something and then you tell a joke about it, but people don't understand?
Yes.
But if you and then you end up having to explain the joke, and then people go, yeah, that would have been funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why comedians have setup. That's why in a comedy thing, people go, I, blah, 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 explaining the circumstances before to get everyone on the same page, and then they tell the joke. That is why comedians do that, because it gets everyone on the same level. It's why they ask, does anyone know this? And then if people don't, they explain what is happening, so that people, when they tell the joke, it lands.
Yeah.
What I think a lot of people are doing now is just try and tell a joke without any explanation.
Yes, true.
And then get upset when people don't understand the joke. Which,
yeah, you're right. I mean, there could have been so many different routes they could have taken, and they shouldn't. I don't think it makes sense to a sequel after the first one. Not in a single. After seeing the first film, it didn't make sense.
They didn't want to, I don't think. But I think the reason why they did was because Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix said they wanted to do more Arthur Fleck, and also it made $1 billion, so Warner Brothers would have been putting immense amounts of money into their paychecks to go, hey, look, you don't want, like, I don't think Joaquin Phoenix has ever done a sequel until this point.
Is it not?
No, like, I don't, because I think he wants to be like Ryan Gosling, where he just moves on from project to project and doesn't revisit things.
Yeah.
Which I respect, but like, because I think that's a more interesting career. Like, I like Robert Downey Jr., but I do want to see him in more stuff than just Iron Man.
Well, like, he's not just Iron Man now. He's going to be...
he's going to be Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem with that. I think he is a good enough actor to take it to... But I worry that Marvel won't let him go outside of where he was.
That's true.
That's what I'm worried about. It's not his acting ability. I reckon he is perfectly capable of doing a villainous role. Like, he did a villainous role in Oppenheimer. It's just a different villain. But I think...
Is there really an antagonist in Joker 2? Like, is the Joker the protagonist or the antagonist, basically?
Joker is passive. So I think he's meant to be the protagonist, but he's so passive in it that he doesn't do anything on really which isn't being told to him to do by someone else.
Right.
Harley Quinn should have been the main focus of this movie if they were going to do what they intended to do, which is have her manipulate him and try and get him to the point. And then you could have seen, she just wants to... Like, they could have done a fascinating take on, like, the women who like true crime document, because basically the reason why she likes him is because she watches a documentary about him, which is referenced multiple times throughout the movie, but you don't ever see it. And that's the problem. There's so much stuff that's happening outside of what they're showing, which sounds and is more interesting than what the movie is actually showing. Like, there are riots in the street about the Joker's trial, and we see bits and pieces of, like, the courtroom where people are standing around in the background, but we don't know why anyone cares. We don't know, like, we only know that people are, like, upset, but we don't hear anything about what the society about is outside, why people are so upset, why people idolize this guy, other than what the first movie told us, but this movie is telling us that was wrong. So why do these people still care?
Yeah.
And, like, we see Harley Quinn's aspect. So so the twist in this movie, which isn't a twist because it's revealed basically after her introduction, is that she is an inmate in Arkham with Joker, and they meet at a singing thing, and she tells him she loves him because of the documentary she saw where she's basically like, you did something with your life. I've never done anything with my life. You inspire me. And she wants the Joker. And then it's like they have a little fling. They have like a little romance. They try and escape prison together. She burns down the wing of like one of the buildings to get them to get out, but they don't escape. They basically, it's basically played as though she is basically getting him to be the Joker, and she wants to be by the Joker's side. She doesn't care about Arthur. She just wants the Joker, because when Arthur's like sitting at the cinema, which they're watching in the prison, and she's like, I want to get out of here, I want to rebel, he's like, no, I want to watch the movie. And she's like, oh. And then she goes off, sets fire to the projector and like the room, so that they basically have a reason to escape. And it's like, oh, you did that for me? And she's like, yeah, I did that for you, but are you the Joker at this point? And then they have their like little musical number, and they're on the fence, and she's basically like in the pictures and in the headlines, and it's like, maybe she's trying to get the attention and get recognized like he was. And then the twist, and so in the courtroom, she's there because she basically is told that she's allowed to go because he's a bad influence on her. And then the lawyer comes in basically after the trial, and she's basically causing like him, be the Joker, and she's like, no, play Arthur Fleck. And she reveals that she was never an inmate in Arkham. She self-committed herself. She's a psychologist. Her dad's a doctor, and she's like a rich girl who's doing her psychology degree. And that's the twist.
Right.
It's meant to be like, she's manipulating him to be the Joker. But they tell you immediately after. You're not ever left wondering what that relationship is. And then he doesn't believe it. She's like, oh, no, I am, but I still like you. Like, she confirms it. She's like, oh, yeah, no, I am, but I like you. And it's all still real, right? And he's like, oh, yeah, because he's lonely and sad, and he wants a girlfriend. And they fuck in a prison cell, and he's bad at sex.
Oh, right,
and they're wearing clown. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like making fun of the Virgin. Because Todd Phillip, I think, hates incel at this point, which is a lot. Because I think that's the thing why a lot of people like are mad at this, is because it is such a disservice to, I think, a lot of the people who like that first movie, in the way that I think they hated, because it's a lot of like the sad incel type person who's like really angry about society and women not respecting them, and everyone's a manipulator and everyone wants to push you down, and it's not any responsibility on you, it's everyone else. That sort of
so the first film had like this whole bunch of fan base now, and now the second one they've just decided to hate on their own fans and then just cause shit.
I think they never intended for Joker to be that, but I think it got muddled up in the translation from direction to
if it wasn't intended to do the first film, it means the first film's shit.
Yeah, but I found that the first one was shit anyway.
Yeah.
That's why I never liked it, because I felt like it didn't do what I think they wanted it to do, because I think it was never meant to glorify Joker. But I think it did. And I think that's why they... I don't think Todd Phillips basically went, oh, I hate that first movie, I want to ruin it. I think he went, I'll try and explain better in this movie, but because of the disconnect between audiences, what they want, and what he was trying to tell, there's too big a gap between getting there. And so you're left with a chasm of just nothing, where both people were blatantly going, I'm not going to even entertain the idea of the other person's opinion. And it's just all getting thrown into a chasm, and you're basically, it's just nothing at the end of the day, because neither one wants to engage on any level, interestingly. Which is why I went away from this movie going, what was the fucking point of it?
Well, this film, both of them combined.
Both. Like, what was the point of either film that justified them having the Joker name in it?
I don't think there was
Which was my problem with the first one.
The whole reason to have the Joker name was just to make more money.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what came of it. And I think this is what people have finally realized, is the whole point of them was to just have a movie that probably would have never been made without the Joker come to light. And I think that's not what people wanted.
So the conclusion is there's now 2 shit films, because the second one's now made the first one shit. And
I don't think either film is shit. I'm going to stay. I don't think either film is shit. I think there's a lot of dogpiling on this movie because it doesn't do what people want it to do. And if this... I maintain that if the direction of this movie is what Todd Phillips wanted, then that is the film that he created, and that should be respected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I also understand audiences' disagreement with that, and they should be allowed to not like it. But I do not think it is terrible. I think there is stuff in it that you could look at and go, oh yeah, that was what they were trying to do. But ultimately it falls flat, and that's direction. But if that's what he wanted, then he did a bad job at conveying, I guess.
Do you think these films receive more hate because of the Joker name? As in, people hated it more because it's not what they associated with the Joker.
I think that's part of it.
To like what it actually is. Like,
I think it's definitely the gap between expectation versus reality of what it was.
Because that's, I think the biggest thing for most things to hate on the internet at the moment is when people are more disappointed about the reality from their expectations.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of movies that are like genuinely horrendous train wrecks of movies that should never have been made. But I'm glad that they are made, because it's always interesting to see just how the process went so wrong.
At least a Battle Angel, anybody?
Yes, but there are people who like that movie. And that's the whole thing. There are people who like this movie, and there are people who don't like this movie. And there are people who sit in the middle, like me, who are like, it was a movie.
You did something for a couple hours.
I think there's definitely a culture on, like, specifically online, about definitely dogpiling on stuff when it's down. Like, there was Concord for PlayStation, a game that came out, was a live service game, was 40 quid, and was received poorly. It played all right, people kind of felt it was okay, and it was a pretty middle-of-the-road game. But because it was Sony, because it was like this another live service, and it was charging you 40 quid, and it had like culturally diverse characters, and it was trying to push that sort of... It wasn't trying to push that narrative, but people pushed that narrative on it. Like, character designs were like, oh, there's people of color, there's like chubby ones, there's like armor that's kind of dull, but is like, the concept design was really cool. And it was like, these people want to push this negativity onto it. And I think then there's this dogpiling of, oh, other people are shitting on this, I want to be a part of it, let's shit on it. Like I was saying with jokes, like, people want to be community. And if the thing to do is shit on it, and people want to be in a community, they will shit on it, even if that's not their opinion on it.
That's probably a big thing about actually just nowadays in general. Most people our age don't actually have a community to go to unless it's the online community. Like, people used to have a third place. They used to have their work, their home, and then somewhere else. Whether it be the pub, be like the gym, or like just something else they could socialize with their friends. But nowadays, people don't have that. People come home straight away from their job. If people even might have one place, they just work work from home, then they stay at home, and then they got nowhere else to go to. So they go online, and then the only way they can feel that sense of community is to join in with whatever's going on online. And because the internet at the moment is filled with hate and just awful emotions, because
it's easier. It's not the internet is filled with hate. It's easier to find hate.
Well, no, my point is it's filled with. It's not everyone is hating on the internet, but the biggest percentage of content shown is hate because it makes the most money
and garbage AI
and garbage. Yeah. And there's like a big thing about Google.
Have you seen the thing that was trending about the baby peacock?
No.
Well, there's two major AI incidences that have happened recently. There's one that if you type in baby peacock on Google and then go to images, 90% of it now is AI generated imaging.
Is it really?
So you don't actually really see any real pictures. It's all just fake pictures now. And then the second one was because of the hurricane. There was a picture of a AI generated girl holding a puppy in the flood of like one of the affected areas of the hurricane, and people who are old and then like sharing it to their kids, and their kids going it's fake, and their parents going no, it's real. This is what I believe. I don't care if it's fake.
Yeah.
As an incentive to like, this is why like they don't care that it's fake. They just want that. They want to push that narrative of there's a sad little girl in a hurricane holding a puppy because it fits their like narrative that they want to present. And so that's the issue with, you need other opinions. Like, I think there's definitely a problem with elevating opinions and things that don't deserve the the spotlight to the same level as like the truth. There's like, we all know that being a nice person is good, but what if you shot someone in the head? Let's put that on the same level and debate it like they're equal. That's, I think, the big problem. Is a lot of it's basically, abortion. Do women deserve rights? No. Oh, well, okay, what's the argument? Why are we debating this? Women deserve rights. Like, why are we putting this very minor, like, thing at the same level as, like, an actual argument? It's like when politicians, like the Buckethead guy in the UK, goes on stage against, like, Boris Johnson. You're like, that's funny, but why are we treating it like it's the same?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem, is a lot of people put, like, arguments that don't have the same level of, like, integrity at the same point and argue as if they're equal in terms of, like, recognition. And it's dumb in a lot of sense. Have I convinced you to watch the movie?
No, not on the slightest, believe it or not.
Oh, that's a shame. I think people should watch it. I think there is something that you can glean from this movie. I don't necessarily think it's a good movie in terms of what it is. It's, like, very nicely shot, but it's boring.
Yeah.
And I think there is merit in watching something that you personally wouldn't think you would enjoy. Because I think people limit themselves again. Like, so today I watched Charlie's Angels, the 2019 movie. Yeah, a movie that I didn't think I would ever enjoy in my entire life. Not because I don't like women or like female-led movies or anything like that, but because at the time, it looked bad to me. And I think that was 5 years ago. It was 2019, same time as The Joker came out. And I basically went, oh yeah, I'm going to watch it today. Because I want something in the background. And I was like, this is alright. Like, I didn't think I would enjoy it. But it's got some decent action, some decent comedy. Like, it's not the best movie in the fucking world. But, like, I limited myself by saying, I'll never watch this. And then I just, 5 years later, I went, fuck it, I'll watch it. And then I quite enjoyed it. So, like, I feel like there's a lot of people who go, that doesn't appeal to me, I won't watch it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think you should watch stuff, not necessarily because it doesn't appeal to you, but I think you should give stuff a chance to broaden your perspective. Because like comedy, the more stuff you know, the more likely you are to get the joke.
I think for me, I more just don't want to pay for it.
Oh, no. But this was on, like... I think there's definitely, like... I think people do devalue stuff for, like, Netflix. I think it does make stuff, again, like, a really good movie put on the same level as a really shit movie on a streaming service. People tend to view them as the same because their perceived value of those things is the same. You've paid one subscription to watch one good movie and then one really bad movie. And then you kind of correlate them to be, oh, yeah, Netflix just basically makes mid movies.
Yeah.
Or mid TV shows or whatever. And so your perceived value of them, because you've only paid for one thing, but you can watch everything and you put it on the same platform, you kind of just, everything blends into one. You don't value it any more or less. When you go and watch a movie in a cinema and you've paid 10 quid, your experience is heightened because you're like, that was worth the $10 or whatever it is now, like 12, 15. Or it wasn't worth the 12 or 15. But you still go, that is justified or not justified. Whereas when you watch something on streaming, you're like, whatever, I paid 8 quid or 15 or whatever streaming is now a month.
Yeah, it's a fucking lot.
And it's just like, okay, that was whatever. So you don't value it, you don't judge it as harshly, or you don't judge it as critically, because you're basically, everything is on the same level, basically, in terms of pay. Whereas if you're like, I think that's another just like thing for why Joker is doing so badly, is because people are like, why would I pay for this? It's bad. I don't want to go watch something that most people are saying is bad. Whereas if you have it on Netflix, I think this will do okay on Netflix.
It probably would.
Because I think a lot of people will know of it now and watch it, and I reckon it will get a resurgence.
Yeah, I mean,
I reckon there will.
will.
I reckon a lot of it people went, it's a musical. That was the core base. A lot of that core base. Why would they want to watch a musical? Because they don't like musicals.
Yeah.
No, I go, a musical seems more interesting than just another story. But what this movie doesn't do is make a good musical, and it doesn't make a good movie outside of the non-musical bit. So it pisses off everyone. People who went to go see it for a musical aspect left disappointed because it's not a good musical. People who went to go see it because it's the Joker movie left disappointed because it's not a Joker movie. It doesn't satisfy anyone on any of those levels. But I think for general people who don't care about either, they might enjoy this more.
Yeah, very possibly. But I think, well, it's been an hour. Let's leave it there.
Yeah. Well, it will get shortened in the edit, but
yeah, it's an hour. That's enough.
We've been recording for about an hour. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you everyone for listening. I guess I've had a great time.
I hope everyone found my opinions so interesting. I don't care. I think I've tried to do, because I watched a whole bunch of reviews before this. Mainly to remind myself of what happened in the movie, because, like I said, it bored me, so I kind of forgot. The other thing I was going to say is, so when I went and watched Aquaman 2, there was a moment where I fell asleep. And I was like, it was only maybe like 2-3 minutes that I fell asleep for. Apparently I missed an entire action scene when I fell asleep in the movie. So I recently learned that, so I was like, okay, cool. I haven't watched the movie again. I was watching a YouTube video about how it was like good, and I was like, okay, what did I miss? And then it was just like this entire action sequence, and I was like, I don't remember that in the movie. Did I miss that? I was just like, okay. But I didn't fall asleep in this movie, so what does that tell you?
Yeah, I mean...
But yeah, I think ultimately my conclusion is this. It's nothing to do with the movie, but it's experience different things because it will give you a broader perspective on other people's views. And that's the best thing to do, because it will get you more interested in other people, and you'll get broader like stuff. You'll be able to talk to different people and you'll be able to understand more stuff. I think knowledge of different things is the most important thing that people can do. And when you basically lock yourself into the stuff that you're only interested in because you only perceive that as the thing that you like because other people are doing that same thing and you like those people, I think broaden your perspectives and horizons and all of that. I think it's more interesting.
In other words, Daddy's telling me to watch every shit that's on the schedule.
Yes. I think you, to be honest, I think you would enjoy Tomb Raider because it does tie into the games.
I might give it a go, actually.
It ties into the games, so...
Was that next week's episode?
Yes.
Oh, maybe I will watch it in time. Who knows?
Also, it's not very anime, so...
Okay, that sounds even better. Yeah, well, we'll catch you next episode.
Yep, if Dan's not there, it'll just be me doing a review. But
absolutely.
If Dan is there, he's watched a thing.
I have, that's a miracle.
Right, we'll see you next time, or maybe it'll just be me. Bye!
Bye!
What a joke. There we go, that's the title. Look at that, the title's in. I did it. I tied it, so now people can't say it's clickbait.